So at the start of the year on the channel, I did kind of like an update video just sharing this new studio space that I moved into. And I also spoke about picking up one of these for it. This is a very old Imacon Flextight Precision 2 film scanner. And back when this was released in 1999, it would have cost over $17,000 US and was one of the best options on the market for film scanning, especially for something, say, to use on a desktop. And even to this day, these old scanners are still incredibly capable. But unfortunately, my experience with this one was very short-lived. It turns out that it ended up having a fried main board, so the lamps inside wouldn't turn on. And that experience kind of put me off looking for another one. That was until a few weeks ago when I ended up with Flextight number 2, which cost considerably less. And after a few small tweaks or repairs here in the office, I was able to get up and running, and it works great. And I wanted to make this video today to share with you some test scanning that I'm going to do with the new Imacon, specifically with some 4x5 and also 6x17 film, just show you what these are capable of. But I also want to talk about how one of these works. You know, since I have this spare unit here, I figured I'll pull it apart. I can show you the insides, show you what makes these unique. And then also talk about how you run one of these old scanners, specifically, you know, the computer system that I put together and the different pieces that were needed to be able to connect one of these and run it properly. And then I also just want to talk about those few issues I had and how I was able to fix them myself here at home. You know, maybe if you're interested in one of these or if you own one, this helps you in one way or another. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the Flextight scanners, the very first model was released back in 1995. This is when Imacon was building these. And they made a number of models. There was the Precision, which was the first one, the Precision 2, which I have, which was released in 1999. Then there was a model called the Photo, and then the Precision 3. And then the company after that was bought by Hasselblad, and they made a number of Flextight models from there on out. But over the years with those new models, the big changes came down to like connectivity, scan speed, jumps in resolution, and then, you know, a few design changes. But the idea behind the scanners and how they work never really changed. And for that reason, even the really old models like this one are still, you know, very capable nowadays and produce quite high resolution scans. So when it comes to how a Flextight works, like I said, I want to take the opportunity to show you the inside of one of these with this spare machine that I have here. So this is what it looks like with the cover off. Way more simple than you'd imagine, but if we work from the top downwards, basically the first thing you have under here, and I'll get some other shots of this, is the sensor. So this is an RGB linear CCD sensor. And then underneath that, you have the lens. So there's a 75mm Rodenstock lens, very high quality, mounted here. And these are both on this threaded rod system. So as it turns, the lens height moves up or down depending on the size of the negative that you're scanning at the time. And then underneath all of this, you have these two wheels here. So these metal wheels, and then under those, you have the lamps. And how this all works is basically you take one of your Flextight film holders. This one here is for 4x5 film. And you'll see these are very flexible, hence the name. But what you do is you put in your sheet of film, close this up, and then this sticks to the magnetized wheels there. And what happens is over a fairly long period of time, this holder gets pulled over that kind of virtual drum and is illuminated. And what makes this work so well is since you have that single pass linear sensor, this is getting pulled over the drum like that. You're getting this ultimate film flatness and you're getting this consistency because the sensor is scanning just this one center portion of the film as it gets pulled through. So again, film flatness is almost perfect, and you don't need obviously glass or fluid mounting or anything like that. So just such a great idea and, you know, a somewhat simple system. So if you want to buy a Flextight, when it comes to cost, like I said, when this one was originally released, it was over $17,000 US. And nowadays, you know, some of the more current models like the Hasselblad versions, even the older Hasselblad ones like a 646 or an 848, those still fetch, you know, a decent amount of money. You might pay 4,000 to 8,000 pounds, depending on which one you get. So quite a big investment. But the Precision 2s can be had for quite a bit less than that. So this one specifically, the paperweight version that I bought, I spent 1,300 pounds on. That came with film holders and cables, everything you needed basically, except for a computer. And I was able to get my money back and keep the machine, which I didn't think was going to be useful at all. But they hover around that price. You can maybe pick one up for £1,000 usually. But the second one that I picked up, this popped up on eBay as an auction for parts. It hadn't been run in a long time. The seller didn't have any way to connect it to a computer to check if it was working. You just knew it powered on, and it didn't come with any cables or holders. So since I had all the accessories, I figured, you know what, I'll put in a low bid of like, say, £250. And worst case, if it doesn't work, I'll take that hit. And like I said at the start, I ended up fixing it and it's working great, which I'll go into after. But I would say Precision 2 would hover around the £1,000 mark if you want to pick one up. But when it comes to my setup, like I said, I want to talk about the specific details of what I went with in terms of hardware to run one of these. So the older Precisions, the downside with these is the connection. So the newer Flextights use Firewire. The Precision use what are called SCSI or SCSI connection. And with this, you need kind of a specific date range of computer and specific hardware, depending if you go Windows or Mac. There's lots of information out there. I can really only comment on what I went and what worked with me. But as an example, I wanted to stick with a Mac, and I ended up with a PowerMac G4. You could do a PowerMac G5, but only up to a certain point, and then newer models didn't work. So there is kind of these like specific date ranges and software versions and stuff that you need to be able to connect one of these properly. But specifically, my setup is as follows. So I went, as mentioned, with a PowerMac G4. I ended up paying £200 for this computer, which is on the higher end, but the appeal was it came with an SCSI card already installed and working. And that card is by a company called Adaptec. And then when it comes to the OS, so the computer had OS 9.2, so very old operating system. I ended up on OS Tiger, which is the highest OS that you can run with the Precision 2. And I just bought that install DVD off of eBay. So again, there are these kind of ranges and these specifics involved. Okay, and then just really quickly, the last thing I want to talk about before we go and do some test scans is just the problems that I was having and the fixes that I was able to make myself here. So the first scanner I bought, got it home, plugged it in, powered it on, it connected to FlexColor and everything. But when I would do a scan, I would get a black frame with a bunch of colored dots on it. And I didn't know enough about how these worked at the time. So I took it down to kind of the go-to Flextight tech here in the UK, a fellow named Stu Cully. He was very generous with his time to kind of tear it apart and look through it for me. And what happened is the lamps inside weren't turning on, but it wasn't just a blown bulb. Turns out it was an issue with the main board. He basically said, since these are so old, there's no parts and it's kind of useless. It's a paperweight. So I was pretty disappointed. And when I got my second one, I was very happy when I got it home and powered it on and I saw the light table turn on. I knew the lamps inside were working. And I did my first scan, and what happened is I got a very similar result. So black frame, bunch of colored dots. But I figured, now that I know kind of how these operate, I'm going to dig into it a little bit. I don't have much to lose. And what the problem was is inside there's two bulbs, and the main bulb that illuminates negative film has this black sleeve on it. And on the top, it's open, and on the side, it has notches. So the top opening lets light come out the top to illuminate the film. The notches on the side let light come out to illuminate the light table here. And what had happened is that sleeve on mine had either been bumped or adjusted incorrectly. So it was actually blocking light from coming out the top. So the film wasn't getting illuminated, and I was getting very similar results to the scanner, which had no working bulb. So all I had to do was just adjust that back, did a test scan, everything was working great. So simple fix, was very happy to see that. So if you're having issues with one of these, there's a good chance it could be some sort of bulb issue. But the second thing is, with that scanner, when I would put the holder on and it would attach to the magnetic wheels, when the scanner would pull it in, it would pull only the one side and it would kind of suck the whole holder in sideways. And again, pulled it apart and found out the problem pretty easily. So on top of each metal wheel on either side, there's these little rubber wheels on brackets. And what happens is these hold the film holder down and kind of guide it in as it's being pulled in. And the wheels on here are supposed to spin freely, but what was wrong with mine is on one side, the wheel was spinning freely. The other side, you can see right here, this is very stiff. So that's what was causing it to get pulled in crooked. So I actually opened up this one, popped out two screws on each side, pulled the wheels off of this one, which spun freely, installed them on that, and it's good to go. So again, Very simple fix for both of these things for what were pretty major issues. So if you're having feed problems, it's worth just maybe looking at these, pulling them out, and checking for how these rotate. Maybe there's a way to service them easily if you don't have spares. Okay, so that's a rundown of how a Flextight scanner works and the setup that I have. And we'll go ahead and do some test scans now. Like I said, 4x5 and 6x17. I've used the scanner a little bit, but I got lots to learn, so I'm looking forward to this. But before we jump into that, we're just going to take a quick break here to talk about the sponsor today, which is Squarespace. So if you're looking to build a website to showcase your photography, Squarespace is an incredible tool that allows you to make a professional website in minutes with no prior experience needed. You can get started with one of their professional looking templates or even from scratch using their blueprint builder. And I've used Squarespace for my own site for a number of years now. It allows me to share my projects and also sell my prints through an online shop. But one of my favorite things and most important is how easy it is to customize and update. And as an example, I recently wanted to add a new page for my coastal erosion project, and it's as simple as adding a blank page, inserting a gallery, dragging my images onto the screen to upload, and then clicking and dragging to reorder and sequence them. And it's an amazing way to showcase works in progress and see how a project looks as it comes together. So check out squarespace.com today and sign up for your free 14-day trial. And when you're ready to launch, you can use my link below to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Okay, time to scan some film. So I got the Mac powered on and I got the Imacon powered on. And the first thing we'll do, we're gonna scan some 4x5 black and white to start, some Pan F from a recent shoot I did. So we'll take our holder, we bring it down here, and the nice thing is you put it by this light table and the Imacon will grab it as soon as it gets near those wheels because it's magnetized like I said. So now you just have this sat here ready to put the film in. So we're gonna take this sheet right here. And this is such a nice design the way they did this. We can just lift up the top cover, place our film in there, let it down a little bit, and then can kind of readjust if we want. That looks good to me. Give it one more dust. And we're good to go. So we're gonna open up FlexColor software, and I'll bring the camera here and film the screen, I think, for the rest of this process here. All right, so we'll go and open up our FlexColor software. And with this, you can basically scan and convert in FlexColor, or you can scan as kind of a raw file and convert afterwards. I'm gonna use the software to do all the conversions. I kind of like that idea. I have, like I said, a lot to learn still though, so some practice to be done. But we're gonna start up here for the setup. We're gonna do black and white negative standard. We're already set to 4x5 here, but these are all the different frame sizes. And then for mode, we're gonna go grayscale 16-bit. And then we're gonna hit preview, and the scanner's gonna pull our holder in now, and it'll give us a quick preview scan. Usually pretty quick here. So preview scan and conversion. So I'm gonna go ahead and just rotate this one, and then I'm gonna click and drag to pull a frame that's within the boundaries here. Maybe we'll adjust this a little bit. And now I'm just gonna hit this A right here, which is automatic. So this will do kind of a quick automatic adjustment. And again, I need to do tests to, I guess, figure out, what to do in here, what to do afterwards. What I would say though is right away, this looks really bright. So we have all these adjustments here, so you can turn these on or off. So this is basically your histogram and levels tools, curves, there's sharpening, there's also some color adjustments. So lots of different stuff you can do, but I think my idea is to get kind of like a somewhat flexible base scan and do a lot of the heavy adjustments later on. But for this one, for whatever reason, it's way too bright. So I'd probably pull this brightness down and maybe even do the same with this curve a little bit. It looks very bright. And then I'm gonna go up here to my histogram, and I'm just gonna zero out my shadows, and same with the highlights, pull them back a bit, just to make sure that nothing's gonna be clipping in that final file. But the final edit, I would do darker than this, but I think for this test, I'm gonna leave that as is. And then I'm just gonna go over to my sharpening, and I'm gonna turn this right off. See if it gives me like a default is 0. I'm gonna do my sharpening afterwards as well. Again, to be determined what the best route is, but I like that. So I mean, that's pretty straightforward, looks good to me. And then the only other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come down here and I'm gonna change my resolution. So with 4x5 film, the Precision 2 will do 2040 ppi as its max resolution. And then the smaller the film format, it'll actually do larger output resolution. So this is based on the film size. The Precision 3 got a bump in resolution where I think it'll do a max of 6400 for 35, whereas this will do 57. But I mean, even still, 2040, 2040 for 4x5 film is a lot. So yeah, I think that's fine. And we're just gonna go ahead and we are gonna scan and sit back and wait. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do some color now. Most of my large format work is black and white, but I dug into the archives for some older color stuff. So I've switched this to negative RGB standard, RGB 16-bit, and we'll do a preview scan. This is Kodak Ektar from back in Ontario, Canada. Favorite image of mine. See how it converts. But as you can see, with that black and white scan we did, the biggest downside of this scanner is just how slow it is. You know, I'll have to see what that times out to, but it felt like it was about close to 15 minutes for a high-res scan, so it's not the fastest. But we'll go ahead again, and we'll just do a selection box, and I'm gonna go ahead and hit automatic. And that's actually not bad for an initial conversion. Like I said, I'll save kind of the major tweaks for the computer after, but I'll go into the levels here, and probably one of the main things I would just do is add a bunch more red into the midtones, and that's already looking way better. Maybe something like that. Maybe add a bit more blue. Maybe not, maybe a little blue. Pull back on that red a bit. Something like that, and maybe a little more blue in the shadows. That's not looking bad. And then I'm just gonna zero out the shadows on the RGB levels, and this will definitely take a little tweaking after on the computer, but that actually converted quite nice. I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with how that's looking. So make sure I'm inside here so it's reading this properly, but yeah, happy with that. I'll go set my resolution and we'll scan this one. Okay, and then the last one I'm gonna do is some 6x17. I have this 120 strip holder, so you can obviously put very big negatives into this. And this excites me quite a bit just because in the past with 6x17 I've had to stitch, which I'm not a huge fan of, so to do high resolution scans in one go is pretty exciting. So I'm just gonna change my frame here to 6x17, and we'll go ahead and do a preview scan and see how this looks. Color's a little weird, but it's looking cool already. So after the 6x17 frame, I ended up doing a couple extra color frames as well, and wanted to jump on the computer here now just to wrap the video up, show you a closer look at some of these scans, and just talk about some quick thoughts now that I've had some time to spend with these. So we'll start with the black and white frame, and if we look up here, so the resolution on 4x5, it's coming in around 9300 pixels on the long edge, so a pretty big file for 4x5 film. And if we go into 100% here, you can see the detail and the sharpness in this frame. You know, this is Pan F, very low grain, but it looks amazing. This put a smile on my face when I saw it for the first time. Just like the fine detail here in the trees and the branches, and It's just so consistent edge to edge. And I actually have this same frame that I digitized with my Lumix S5 setup. I figured I'd show you just for fun. This one still looks great as well. I actually found what's interesting is the Lumix one comes in around 9300 pixels and the Imacon's around just under 9300. So it's pretty funny that they're both almost identical in terms of resolution. But if we put the Lumix on the left here, and then Imacon on the right. Like I said, you know, both frames look really good, especially when we go into 100%. You know, the compression is probably going to kill this on YouTube. But when I'm looking at this here, you know, if you were really picking apart things, the Imacon to my eyes definitely looks nicer. Like I said, a little more kind of fine detail. The Lumix is a little bit chunkier. And even as we get maybe to like the corners, or the sides of the frame, the Imacon looks maybe a bit more consistent and hilarious. There's just a goat tied up here. Super random. But I mean, they both still look good, but I will say I really, really like how the Imacon looks. The color frame, in hindsight, this maybe wasn't the best one to do. This was one of the first 4x5 images I ever made years ago, and I had the camera, I don't think, set up properly because there's some weird like swing to this almost. But the color of it, you know, the color conversions coming out of Flex Color is something I was really interested in. And with this one, I'd probably do some tweaks to this still, but I don't even know. I bumped up the orange saturation and adjusted the color of the highlights a little bit. But for the most part, it's nice to see that the color conversions coming out of Flex Color look good. This is another sheet of Ektar that I did right after from years ago as well. And very happy with how this one looked. Again, I did a little more to the temp and tint, but yeah, nothing too crazy. The detail again at 100% on this one, you know, especially once we get up here, looks great. The dust on these older frames is horrendous. Probably just poor storage on my part, but this thing would take ages to clean up. So that is one thing that would not be fun with this. And then just one more here. So this is actually Portra 160. I don't even think I really did much to the color of this one, and it looks really nice. Again, the detail on this looks great. So I'm excited about the potential of this for color moving forward. But the last one's the 6x17 frame. So the crazy thing with this is that if we look again at the resolution, this is almost 20,000 pixels, like 19,280 on the long edge. And if we go into 100%, once it kind of clicks in and loads here, there we go. The detail at 100% for an image that is this big in resolution, it looks amazing. So this, this was really, really exciting to see, you know, to be able to do these 6x17 frames, single pass, and get files this big is pretty cool. So again, a few adjustments to color. This one I tweaked a little bit more. I think I dug into some of the HSL sliders, but yeah, overall, pretty happy with how these look. So yeah, anyways, just fun to get this budget Imacon fixed up and running again and build out that old computer, and just, yeah, like I said, fun to play with this old tech and still very, very impressive. So excited to use this some more moving forward. I will say the biggest downside for me with this is just the speed. You know, the 6x17, I timed it out, it was like close to 35 minutes. It just takes a while to do these high-res frames. For me, you know, my output is quite low shooting large format, so it's not a huge deal, but yeah, certainly if you have a lot of volume, it would take a long time. You'd need to have multiple days to scan archives or big collections of work. But anyways, fun to use this, and hope you enjoyed this look at this old Precision 2. And other than that, just want to say thank you as always for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.